Hi, and good morning. Welcome back to my channel. Am I climbing back into my made bed? Yes, I am. It is, hi. I don't know what time it is. It's 8:30, which to most of you might be the time you're actually waking up for the day. I've lived a whole lifetime already. Can I? And I had already kind of planned for this. This was not a surprise, but I just kind of knew myself well enough to know that after the holidays and all of the chaotic craziness of the last several weeks that I was gonna need like a day to just recover from life. And so I thought for today we would do a cozy reading vlog, and throughout the vlog I would share books that I have read previously, whether it's within the last several weeks or the last decade plus, that you guys, I haven't been able to stop thinking about, meaning they've stuck with me. I think about the characters, I think about the storyline, or it impacted me in some way. And I am kind of eclectic with my books of choice. I do kind of tend to go through like phases, but I read everything from like psychological thrillers to contemporary romance, generally without the spice. I like story. I like a good story. Lots of young adult, new adult, all that kind of good stuff. So for right now, if this guy will settle down, I am going to cozy up. I've got my heating pad on. It is cold outside, which for North Carolina is abnormal. I was saying the other day to a friend that I'm like, it's a wonder those of us that live in North Carolina aren't just constantly sick, because we went from like 75-degree weather to 40-degree weather in less than 12 hours. And we're dropping even more than that now. I think we're at 29 degrees at the moment. So no better day than to just kind of stay cozy and be comfortable. And I'm gonna relax for a little bit. I am currently reading, I think I mentioned this in another vlog, but I am currently reading Frida McFadden's The Boyfriend, and I'm really enjoying it. I have read several of her books in the past. The one that you most likely have heard about is The Housemaid, and like the ones that follow, all very good. If you like a good thriller, well, I don't know, would she be considered psychological thriller? I think so. It's like mystery, crimey kind of stuff. So if like you're into true crime podcasts, this is up your street. I, however, wanted to very quickly address my little setup. I recently upgraded my reading. You guys, I recently upgraded my reading experience. Is it lazy to the nth degree? Potentially. But tell me if you're a reader, then you get it. But there's nothing better than just like being able to sink into a book the same way those that really loved binge watch TV, I am also one of those people, can just like sink into a good TV series. You want to be comfortable, you want to be cozy, and there are certain things that when you're reading get in the way of that. And one of those things is, I mean, I have a Kindle, I don't even have a case on it, as light can be. You're like borderline gonna get kicked out of here. Dude, do you want to be here? Sorry, the dog had to go. I have a Kindle, it's as light as can be. It does not have a case on it. This is the Kindle Light from like, I think 2019 is when I got it. And it's just a tap screen, so you just tap it. I am gonna turn this monitor off so that you don't hear the background noise. And I was recently sent on TikTok, so if you follow me over there, I do get sent quite a few things from TikTok Shop. And this little handy dandy device actually, like, first of all, when it's being stored, it all just connects together, so it charges all as one piece. This piece you clip onto your Kindle, and this is a remote, and it connects, and you could be fully under covers and still use the remote, which is where this little guy comes in. This I got from Walmart. It was only 10 bucks. Jury's still out on whether it's the best thing in the world, because it is a little bit like difficult to maneuver, as you might be able to tell. I might need to work on the setup here. I just put it back on. That way you can like not have to hold your book, and you can be fully under covers, which when it's freezing like today is all I really want to do. So I'm gonna cozy up and read for a little bit, and I'll be back in a little while to share some results on my sourdough starter, and maybe at that point we'll kind of, while I'm feeding that, we'll talk about some of the books that I can't stop thinking about. I may or may not have fallen asleep, which I would generally apologize for, but I think I really needed it. I think I really needed that nap. I still feel like I could sleep for a lot longer, but maybe just a little afternoon coffee might perk me up a little bit, although it is only 11 o'clock, so it's not like I slept the whole day away. Again, I've been up since 5, the kid woke up at 6. I lived a whole lifetime before 8:30. So anyway, what we are going to currently do right now is check on my sourdough starter, and we are going to feed the sourdough starter. So I can't really tell if there was a lot of activity last night or not, because I have the rubber band on there and we've got like these marks here. So it is very possible that it bubbled up and then came back down, at least on that one side, although it looks very clean on that side. But I do see bubbles. I do see, like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. I don't think you are, but like, maybe if I get out of the frame. There are some little bubbles of activity happening. So nothing crazy, but something. So what I have learned for feeding a sourdough starter is I am now going to discard half of this and then feed it. So I need the unbleached flour and water and potentially something to put this in. I'm trying to see. I mean, there's some activity in there. I mean, it's bubbling a little bit. Technically, there are sourdough discard recipes. I don't know that like the first discard of a sourdough starter that's like barely active is really the best thing to use for a sourdough discard. But at some point through these 15 days of like getting it active, I do want to make at least one sourdough discard recipe, which I think I'm going to start with sourdough chocolate chip cookies just to see how they are. And okay, let's feed the starter. All right, so I'm going to discard half. I have a very crazy toddler right now, so it's just going to be loud in the background. I'm gonna discard, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've discarded half and I'm just going to follow the same, equal parts from yesterday, which was 50 grams flour, 50 grams water. Let's see. Okay, so we got 50 grams flour. Oh, that's a little bit more than 50. I'm gonna actually add a little bit more flour just because I want the ratio to be a little bit less than 1 to 1. And I do think at some point I might go get some either rye flour or whole wheat just to kind of add some. Those flours tend to be a little bit more active. Okay, so we're just gonna mix her up. And from what I understand, we want her to be thick, thicker than pancake batter. Oh, she's thick though. She is thick. Now, the water that I used yesterday was actually a little bit cool. So today I made sure it was a little bit warmer. Not hot by any means, but warmer. That is day 1 of the sourdough starter under our belts. I'm gonna try to clean these edges off really well so I have a little bit more of a clear understanding of if anything happens or not. Okay, I'm gonna move the rubber band up just a little because it is pretty much exactly where it was yesterday. But I just wanna make sure. All right, so she has been fed. I'm gonna cover her loosely again. Her? Would she be a her? I don't know. And set her over here. I'll let her do her thing. I did intend to talk to you about books while I was doing the store, but I did not. So let's maybe go somewhere that the dogs aren't going crazy and talk books. Okay, you know you're having the ultimate cozy lazy day when leggings are too much of a commitment. I had put leggings on after I took my shower. I actually took my shower super early this morning because we woke up to this little lady having some issues, but I have now swapped to what might be the coziest sweatpants, but also still look kind of dressy. Like you could kind of dress these up if you wanted to. Obviously, today is not the day that I'm dressing them up, but I have gone through and I made a list of some books that I wanted to share with you guys. And I leaned a little bit on ChatGPT, I'm not gonna lie. I am not a succinct person. If you have watched a single one of my videos, you know that I can talk forever. There is a reason, let's see if I can make my hair get out of the way, that this sweatshirt says professional yapper, because I am a professional yapper. So I leaned on ChatGPT to kind of give us like a summary of these books. So let's go chat about those. And I'm of two minds, whether I go into my office to do this or if we just go get back in my bed, because I kind of feel like I want to go get back in my bed. I just ate cozy soup and I've got like warm soup belly. And I kind of just want to go get back in my bed with the heating pad. Maybe we're gonna go do that. I told you at the beginning of all this that things would be very casual. So we're super cash. And maybe after that I'll make a coffee, because I definitely am gonna need a rebound because I've been so sleepy. And I wake up early anyway, but I've been waking up early more so recently than over Christmas break. And tonight I'm going to my neighbor's house to have some wine. So I need to be awake because I'm literally going over there at the time I would normally be getting in my bed. So we're gonna have to rally. So let's go talk books. Okay, I have you very precariously balanced, and if any of the animals make a single wrong move, you're gonna go tumbling down. But we're gonna try to get through this. So I'm gonna start with psychological thrillers, mostly because that's what I've read the most of, I feel like. I do have some young adult ones as well. I kind of got out of my young adult phase, maybe like, I don't know, I was in it for a while. And once I started publishing young adult, I actually stopped reading it quite as much because it was like competing in my mind with comparison and all that kind of stuff. So the books in that category that I have to share, I read years and years ago. I'm actually gonna look through this list real quickly because I wanna say that I think the most recent read that I have here, yeah, the most recent read would have been from 2019. So when I say that these books have like stuck with me, they've stuck with me. So I'm gonna start with like mystery, psychological thrillers. The first one on this list, which might have been like my intro to like that gripping kind of story in the psychological thriller era, is Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. And what ChatGPT came up with for that one is that it's absolutely chilling. It's about Annie, who's a realtor, and she's actually kidnapped at one of her open houses and taken to like a remote cabin. She's held captive there by a very twisted guy. And the story is actually told through her therapy sessions. So not only are you getting like a glimpse into what she went through by like when she's like kind of unpacking this trauma, you're also getting a sense of where her life is now and kind of like how she's rebuilding it. It takes a wild turn as she starts to uncover the secrets about her abduction and the people around her. It's intense, emotional, and full of twists that you won't see coming, which I would say is a fairly accurate description. The next one I have here is The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. You might be familiar with her. I'm pretty sure HBO did her Big Little Lies series. That's also a really good book. I wouldn't say that's a better book than The Husband's Secret. I think The Husband's Secret was better. And what ChatGPT said about this one is that it's one of those books that you can't put down, which I would agree with. It's about Cecilia, who is a super organized mom who finds a letter from her husband that's only meant to be opened after his death. But she opens it anyway, and what she discovers completely flips her life upside down. And at the same time, you're following Tess, who is dealing with her husband cheating on her, and Rachel, who's never gotten over her daughter's murder. And the way their lives connect is so intense, and it really makes you think about how one secret can change everything. It was definitely one of those books that, like, I think I read it in like 2 or 3 sittings, which for me is very quick. I'm a slow reader, okay? But definitely, if you have not read that one, add it to your list. This one, I think, is my most recent read. I want to say this was maybe my most recent read, and it's The Secret Life, not my most recent read currently. I mean, like, the newest book, I think? The newest book on this list, and it's The Safest Lies by Megan Miranda. And why I'm saying this to you, like why I'm telling you that they're older books, is because these aren't like the ones that you're still currently hearing a lot about, which if you're a reader, you are probably already in the know about like the most viral or sensationalized books at the moment. These are books that were of that category years and years ago that I can't stop thinking about. Okay, so The Safest Lies, ChatGPT says it's a suspenseful, edge of your seat kind of read. It's about Kelsey, who is a high school girl who's lived her whole life in fear because her mother has major anxiety after surviving a kidnapping years ago. Kelsey's super careful about everything, but then her mom goes missing and everything unravels. Suddenly, Kelsey is digging into her mom's past, trying to figure out what's really going on, and then danger starts to close in on her too. It's packed with twists and has that perfect mix of mystery and family drama, and it says that you'll be hooked from the start, which is definitely true. I remember reading this book, actively reading this book, and I saw it actually on one of my friend's Instagrams and read it on a whim because of her recommendation. Secret Life of C.C. Wilkes. I read this book, it had to have been maybe 2013 or 2012, somewhere in that era, so a long time ago. Still think about it to this day. And it's called The Secret Life of C.C. Wilkes by Diane Chamberlain. And ChatGPT says that this book is emotional and gripping. It's about a young girl, Cece, who gets caught up in a crazy situation where she helps a guy that she loves kidnap a pregnant woman. But then everything goes horribly wrong, and Cece actually ends up raising the girl's baby as her own. And then years pass, and that past comes back to haunt her, and she has to make a decision on like whether or not she's gonna come clean and risk losing everything. It's beautiful, heartbreaking story about love, guilt, and the choices that shape our lives. And it literally ended it with, you won't be able to stop thinking about it. And clearly that's true because I read this book in 2012, 2013. It couldn't have been later than 2013 because I know what house I was living in. And we moved into a different house in March of 2013. Does anybody else benchmark their lives that way? Or is it just because I've lived the football coaching wife's life for so long? Okay, moving on to young adult books. John Green, everybody knows and loves John Green. The first book I read of his was Paper Towns, and I still think of it. I know this had to have been in either 2010 or 2011 because I was living in the apartment in Athens, Georgia, so I know that. And ChatGPT says of this book that it's a fun and thoughtful read. It's about Quentin, this kind of quiet high school guy who's been crushing on his neighbor Margot forever. One night, she shows up out of nowhere and takes him on this crazy adventure around town, pulling pranks and breaking rules. Then she disappears the next day, leaving behind these mysterious clues that Quentin thinks are meant for him. The whole book is him and his friends trying to figure out what these clues mean and how to find her, and along the way, it's all about figuring out who people really are versus who we think they are. I mean, honestly, I just remember being so gripped by this book, and like, you know, those like moments in a story that just kind of like tickle some type of nostalgia in your brain. This was it for me. The Lovely Bones. So this is a very old book. I was still in college when I read it. It's kind of, it is young adult, but it's also kind of like it's the scales a little bit into like the psychological thriller era of it. But it's by Alice Sebold, and it's about Susie, and when she's 14, she's murdered. At the very beginning of the book, that's what happens. And the book is actually told from her perspective in this like in-between place that she's in. And you're hearing her like watch her family and friends deal with her death. You see her dad trying to figure out who killed her mom struggling to cope, and her little sister growing up without her. At the same time, Susie's trying to come to terms with what happened to her. ChatGPT says that it's sad, but also hopeful and really makes you think about life, love, and letting go. Definitely like a heavier subject, but very good. I actually think it's been turned into a movie. I'm almost sure of that, actually. This is like one of my favorites, and it's extra special to me now because I'm actually friends with the author, which if you had told me when I read this book that I'd end up being friends with the author, I would never have believed you. But it's Flat Out Love by Jessica Park. When I tell you this story is so uniquely relatable and heartbreaking and heartwarming and just makes you feel like you are in this like cozy, loving, humorous family. I really mean it. There's something in this book, I won't share too much about it, but there's something in this book that I still do to this day every Christmas. And now I get to do it with my son. And if you end up reading the book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It has to do with the Christmas tree and Christmas lights. Okay, so ChatGPT says that this book is sweet, funny, and emotional. It's about Julie, a college freshman who moves in with this quirky family after her housing falls through. She starts getting close to Matt, the nerdy but lovable older brother, but she's super curious. Sorry, the cat just moved the pillows you're sitting on. But she's super curious about Finn, the adventurous older brother who's traveling the world. But the real mystery is, why does this family seem to be so broken? And why does Celeste, the youngest sister, carry around a cardboard cutout of Finn? And this cardboard cutout like literally goes everywhere with Celeste. It's actually quite hilarious. It's got humor, romance, and a big emotional twist that'll catch you off guard. And that is an understatement. Yeah, that's a good one. It is a very good book. It's an oldie, but a really goodie. She's got a bunch of other really good books out there too, but that one was like the first one I had read by her and made me like fully fall in love with her as an author. And then flash forward years and years, and I helped her to redesign her website, and now we're like buddies, and it's kind of cool. Definitely did not see my life going in that direction, but I don't hate it. Okay. The last one in the young adult category is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. I think this has also been made into a movie. I'm not entirely sure, but ChatGPT says that it's a sweet and emotional love story with a twist. It's about Madeline, a girl who's been stuck in her house her whole life because she has a rare immune disorder that makes her allergic to pretty much everything. Her life is pretty much all about doctors and isolation until she meets Ollie, the boy next door. They start an online friendship that quickly turns into something more, and Madeline begins to question everything that she thought she knew about her condition and the life that she's been living. It's a story about love, freedom, and taking risks, and it'll make you think about what you do for a chance at real happiness. And I will also say that the ending is like one of the most like kind of endings I think I've read in a long time. If that doesn't make you want to read it, I don't know what does. All right, and then these other ones, I'm not actually gonna go into detail about them. I'm just gonna share what they are. There's one, it's a new adult category, and this is actually the first new adult book I'd ever read, probably sometime in between like 2013 and 2015. I can't exactly say when I'd read this. It's called Brooklyn Girls, and it's about this girl. She lives, it's a series. There are others in this series. I've only read Brooklyn Girls because they're kind of hard to get your hands on. But this one, she has like a really bad breakup. She's trying to figure out what to do with her career, and she like ends up starting a food truck. It is so hilarious and heartwarming, but also like inspiring in some wild way. It's just all about like finding out who you are and what you're capable of, and kind of busting free of the image you're raised to believe about who you are allowed to become. I really enjoyed it. And then I have a category here that's just called Light and Fluffy, and I don't mean that to any of these authors or any of these books as anything other than just they're the kind of stories that make you feel light. They're easy to read, they're not too heavy in topic, and they're just kind of like good entertainment. Any of the Shopaholic series by Sophie Kinsella. In fact, I would argue that most of Sophie Kinsella's books are going to deliver deliver like that exact feeling of just like reading a rom-com with a really super quirky, hilarious, slightly messy main character. She also wrote a book, I think it was called 20s Girl. Such a cute book. I mean, like, so cute. Loved it. Would read it again tomorrow if it landed in front of me. Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Really cute book. And then the Selection series by Kiera Cass. The only way I would know how to describe that series is if The Hunger Games and The Bachelor had a baby. It is so good. Really gripping, and really enjoyed it. There are like a ton of other books I could recommend to you right now, and actually as I've been talking, there are others that are like popping into my head that I'm like, oh, I really like this one and I really like that one. So I guess like reading vlogs are gonna have to become somewhat of a regular thing on my channel, because it's one of my goals this year. If you watched my video, my very first video in this series, then you'll know that reading is something that I want to do a little bit more of every day. And it's something that I just really enjoy, but it's also like imperative for my career to be reading. And it's just not something I've made a lot of time for lately. And it is like, when I think back to my blogging days, like really heavy into the blogging days, like that's how I made most of my blogging friends, is connecting over books. And so I would love to hear from you in the comments, like what is at least one book that you've read in the lifetime of reading books that you still think about today? Send out your recommendations down in the comments. Maybe we can all kind of get some good ideas, and I can start beefing up my to be read list, because it's sadly just non-existent at the moment because I haven't really been paying attention to what books to be reading. So I am going to do a little bit more like bed rotting and reading. Preferably this time I won't end up falling asleep. Maybe I'll make a coffee and read. Ooh, that sounds lovely, actually. Let's do that. Let's make a latte and do a little bit more reading. I will tell you a little bit about this book that I'm currently reading. Like I mentioned earlier, it's The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I don't even know how to summarize this book because there's like a million stories happening at once. And I will say, like, at first I'm like, oh no, my brain is way too full to try to like juggle all of this. You figure it out real fast. Like you catch on. I'm trying to think. Like it flashes between the story of like these two guys in high school and like the things that they've dealt with then, and this main character of like the now setting who has gone on like disastrous dates, and she has these girlfriends who are starting to kind of like get serious with their boyfriends. The only thing is one of them ends up dead, and finally the main character like starts getting serious with this one guy, and then he starts to act sketchy, and it's just this whole story where I think the whole time I'm reading and I think I'm getting it figured out, and I know, because I know Frida McFadden well enough to know that I know nothing that I think I know, and I am dying to know how it all fits together, because it fascinates me from an author perspective how Frida McFadden's brain works, and how she's able to like weave these stories together and still leave you, one, gripped the whole time, leaves you guessing the whole time. And it's not one of those, like, she doesn't write the kind of books that you're kind of half disappointed halfway through because you're like, I've got this figured out. Every time I've thought that, I've been very wrong. So definitely recommend. But let's go make coffee and come back to my little cozy nook in the bed. I fear I was like fully smudgy in that last clip, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna share how I make my lattes. The dishwasher's on, so if that bothers you, I'm sorry. But again, very real life, very casual. And I live in a house where we eat all of our meals in the house. Dishes need to be washed. I don't do anything fancy for my lattes, but it does come out really good. And like the kind of latte you would get at like an actual independent coffee shop. It's nothing like Starbucks, because I feel like Starbucks is too sweet for me. I will drink it, but it's not like my fave. So I get baking cocoa, and I think I'm only gonna do one. I'm gonna do one shot for right now. I may end up having a second latte later. I'm only gonna do one for right now. So I don't know, I would say half a tablespoon of cocoa powder. This is measure with your heart kind of sitch. The teeniest bit of sugar, like that much. And then I add a teensy bit of water to the bottom of that and just kind of swirl it around to kind of like make a syrup. This mug is also probably the dumbest thing I've ever purchased and completely unnecessary, but also kind of one of my favorite things I've ever purchased, because there's a little button here that'll mix it. I'm not gonna do it right now because the powder is still very powdery and it's gonna like end up poofing up in my face, but it's nice because this syrup, or any syrup you were using if you were making a latte, kind of can settle to the bottom if you're not drinking your drink as fast as humanly possible, which who wants to drink a latte like that? I want to like savor and enjoy it. It's nice because then it'll like mix up your drink. It's the dumbest thing ever, but it was not expensive. It does fit in my cup holder, which I appreciate, in my car. I love it. It was so dumb, but I love it. Okay, and now those pods we made yesterday are what I'm gonna be using. So I'm just gonna use my little Nespresso machine, turn it on. Those pods don't like instinctively fall down. I have to like tap it down in my machine, which is totally fine. Little pod, pop it in. And then I think it's lungo is what it's called. Basically I let it run for like 10 seconds. That'll do its thing on its own, so you'll start to hear that go once it's warmed up. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get my milk ready. I do have a milk frother that came with that machine. I don't use it anymore because it's just a pain in the butt to wash. This I can just toss in the dishwasher, and I just use like one of these little frothers. When I do 1 shot of espresso, it's not really a shot, it's a lungo of espresso, I go to 4 ounces of milk. I use the lactose-free, 2%. It's just what I have. And then a little splash of my creamer that I'm using at the moment. This time it just happens to be the Italian sweet cream, which is what I use most of the time. In fact, I would say this is my go-to creamer for like the last 6 years. Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna heat this up for about a minute. Now is the perfect time to use my little like mixy mix. I think you'll be able to see, but that way it's mixing the espresso with the little like the chocolate syrup that we made. I just use my little frother. Pour it in. And there we have my latte. I am gonna put my lid on it just because the cat likes to sit with me and will head bump my hand that has the coffee in it, and I'm just less likely to spill it if I have the lid. We just had like the most traumatic toddler experience. We just had to give our kid a haircut, and we generally keep his hair like kind of long because he's got really nice curls. He's very sensitive, like sensory wise, and it was fully traumatic. We ended up having to buzz his head, which nobody's happy about, but it's okay. We survived, it's fine. I am currently chopping up some onions, and I'm about to chop up some olives to dress up our frozen pizza because it is Friday night pizza night, and we do all the frozen pizzas pretty much every Friday night unless we're doing Papa Murphy's, which I also really love. But I am probably gonna go ahead and end the vlog here. I'm going over with friends tonight, I think I mentioned this earlier, to go have some wine. And I don't know if I've ever shared this necessarily, but if you've followed my blog, you're looking for Daddy Kitty Cat? If you followed my blog, then you already know this, but because I share things online, I share things online, but that does not mean the people in my life choose to share things online, and I don't tend to include the people in my life in my online content. Only occasionally may I do that. Obviously, the people who live in this house will show up more often than anybody else, but I make it a point to really just let this be like my channel and my stuff. So if you're ever wondering, like, if I'm out doing stuff and I come back and I tell you about it and you're like, why wouldn't you film that, or why wouldn't you show that? Because I want to preserve those interactions and experiences as genuine and authentic and not shove cameras in people's faces. And really, this channel is more about like the journey I'm on in life, and I can do that without putting a camera in everybody's face. So anyway, I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I am likely going to do more reading vlogs in the future. I actually really enjoyed this. I also really enjoyed that it gave some purpose in my very hard to relax brain to relaxing. Like it was like easier for me to rationalize because I was doing this video that I'm like, it's okay that I'm laying in bed. Now, did I need to take a nap earlier? Not really. Did I enjoy it anyway? Did I desperately, like, did my body need it? Yes. So either way, we're making progress on things, right? And the whole point is to feel joy, and I feel more joyful just doing these videos. So thanks for being here. And if this content resonated with you guys at all, or you just think that we are the kind of people that could be friends, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, comment down below, let me know a book that you can't stop thinking about, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.